Okay, hi, my name is Suzanne Barron, founder of Illuminati Exposed. You can purchase my books on Amazon. They are $9.99 for the Kindle option. They are $14.95 for the paperback option. If you are a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can purchase my books on, or you can get it for free if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber. If you are not a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can subscribe to it and get a free 30-day subscription. I thought to try something a little different today. I thought I'd do a screen recording, and I downloaded two apps, which you can see like the first one right here. I downloaded and it doesn't work. It like stopped recording after 5 minutes, and maybe this one will stop at 5 minutes too. But we'll find out if we make it past it. Then we'll see. I'm a little distracted right now because when I was playing it back, I heard a lot of chatter in it, and what it's happening is like right now I don't hear the chatter because I'm talking into the computer, and it's not really quiet in my house right now, so I can't really say, "Hey, do you guys hear this?" I'd have to do this when there's like literally like nothing going on, like my daughter's playing music. So if you can hear music in the background, that's my daughter. But other than that, there's really no other noise that I can hear right now. You might be able to hear some weird stuff, like I don't know if you can hear I'm moving my finger, like literally just it might close, just going like this. Just rub my finger, and you should be able to hear something. I guess I'll find out when I play it if it works or not. So we're extremely distracted by that. But anyways, so I've mentioned before in the past that God set Jesus' purpose so that we would have an idol to look to that was not a false idol. We needed someone who was God for us to look at, because in Old Testament times they had continued to look at false prophets, or not false prophets, false gods over and over again. And God was like, not happy with that. I put together this like little clip thing right here. So you can see I'd already started on it, and 5 minutes into it, it stopped. But I put together these like little, that's not it either. Whoa, where did it go? Okay, here it is. These, little bitty, tabs to go through to kind of keep me on track, because not really a preacher. I've never really done this kind of stuff. I never saw this in my life. I never saw that my life would be like this. So please don't like think that I don't know. Just try to keep with me, I guess. Okay, so Exodus 34 talks about for you, but you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars, and you shall cut down their asher poles. For you shall worship no other gods, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. So don't worship other gods. Okay? And they continue to do that over and over throughout the Old Testament, and we see this. Now, therefore, send and gather to me all Israel to Mount Carmel, and 450 of the prophets of Baal. Now, 400 of the prophets of Asher, who's eat at Jezebel's table. Now, what is a prophet? A prophet is somebody who spoke to God, somebody who spoke to God, for God. God gives them a message, and they speak it out. Now, a message given to somebody would have to be that a voice would speak to you. I'm delivering you a message right now. I'm literally speaking to you, delivering a message to you. So that would be a voice that would come to somebody. Now, God is a spirit, He's invisible. So God would come to this person and He would speak to them. That makes them a prophet. That is what a prophet is, somebody who spoke to God. So these prophets of Baal and this prophet of Asher right here on the screen would mean that Baal and Asher were literally talking to these people, but these are false gods, and these are also false prophets. A false god creates false prophets. A prophet is somebody who God spoke to. So I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of like I said, I'm a little distracted. It's my first one. A little nervous about this one, honestly. But what does the Bible say about prophets? Frequently, the words a prophet spoke on God's behalf were, in fact, foretelling what would happen later. That's what we assume that they predict the future. However, the prophet's essential role was to speak for God, regardless of whether he did any predicting of the future. A prophet expresses the will of God in words, and sometimes he uses signs to back up what he says and to demonstrate God's power behind it. In a similar way, a false prophet, also may not be in the business of foretelling the future. A false prophet is simply someone who speaks for another, but falsely. False prophets either speak for the wrong God, you see that right there? So there are other people out there who do believe that there's more than one God, or they claim, like, actually wrong God, or maybe they're just thinking like biblical times, but there are more than one God. There's a verse that says Satan is the God of this world. It's in the Bible. It actually says that. Or they claim to have heard from the true God, but do not accurately represent him or his words, thereby implying a false God. At the very least, they speak out of their own human hearts, but more likely the God they are speaking for is really a demon. Now, see, that's striking to me right there, that people actually understand this, and we're not teaching this in the church. We're actually not teaching this to the world. Like, I've never heard this. I've never seen any television, YouTube footage. I've never seen anything like that. What I just read, what I'm preaching to you, what my whole ministry is. I have never seen this before. So anyways, Jeremiah 23:21. So I did not send these prophets, yet they ran. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. This again implies that somebody was actually speaking to them. Something actually spoke to these people, otherwise they would not have had something to prophesy about. I mentioned that in my ministry that I had a voice come to me, a real voice. It came to me and it told me it was God. It said it was God and it wanted me to put a bullet in my head. That was not God. That was not our Father. That was not the Creator. He would not do that. He would not ask me to do that. Now, we have people in the world today who claim that, God told me to hurt this person. God told me to do this. God told me to do that. And society thinks that they're mentally sick. They don't believe that a voice is actually speaking to them because they say that God wouldn't do that. So there's no way that that's God. There's no way somebody's speaking to them. Well, I had a voice come to me and tell me he was God. And he asked me to do things that contrary to what God would want me to do, what the Father would want me to do. It was a real voice. So there's people in the world today who say that God is speaking to them, telling them to do awful things. A voice really is talking to them. I know this because I've experienced it. I used to think the same thing. These people are crazy. God's not talking to these people. That I used to think the exact same thing that the society is thinking. God is not telling these people to do these things. There is nobody speaking to these people. They are mentally sick. I used to believe the very same thing until I heard the voices myself. They are real. And no, God is not telling these people to hurt these people. But it is a voice, and he is saying that he's God. Satan sets himself up as God. Satan can call himself God because he is the God of this world. Money, Illuminati, pyramid, Egyptians. Not the angelic side, the demonic side. Just like we believe Abraham, though, right? We believe Abraham when he says that God told him to kill Isaac. But then again, God told him not to kill Isaac, right? But we don't believe that God does that today. See, it wasn't, I don't think that God the Father told Abraham to kill his son. I think Satan did. I think Satan said, I'm God and I want you to kill your son. Because he wanted to kill the seed to which Jesus would come. Because Jesus came through Isaac. And he wanted to kill Isaac to stop that. To stop the Father's purpose. But God wouldn't allow that because God's got greater authority over Satan, right? He wouldn't allow it, and he wouldn't let Abraham do it. He told him to stop. Two entities speaking to one person. Jesus spoke to two entities. He spoke to Satan. He held a conversation with Satan, and he held conversations with Jesus, with the Father. He spoke to both. Spoke to Satan on the mountain in the wilderness for 40 days. He spoke to demons, spirits, voices, invisible spirits that nobody else could see or hear. He was a prophet. Schizophrenic people hear voices that nobody else can see or hear. You're prophets. You are prophets. Which God is talking to you? Are you a false prophet? Or are you a prophet of God, the Father? Now, back to what I was reading here, where it shows, They do not accurately represent him or his words. At the very least, they speak out of their human hearts. Now, I am accurately representing him. I'm telling you, this is the truth. Voices are speaking to people in the world, and that's because they are prophets. They have a gift. Now, go back over here to Jeremiah. Okay, so subliminal messaging, right? We've all heard that the Illuminati are suspected to use subliminal messaging, and we don't really quite understand like how does this work. We think that they're filling us with like evil. They're making, I should have done some pages on this too. They're making us like murder and all that stuff because of all the hate that gets in us from all the movies and music, and that's true. But they blame the humans. It's not humans that are doing that. It's the spirits inside these humans that are driving the people. Luke 8:29. So there's a big subliminal message through, and this is what this whole thing's about. Like, how do we know that Jesus was also subliminal messages, like foretelling something too? Like you can you get an understanding out of it, like it's trying to tell us something. And parable, um analogy, same thing. In biblical times, they use symbolic messaging, like the tabernacle, which I'm fixing to show you and express this to you. And that is just subliminal messaging of biblical times. It's the exact same thing. See, God, the spirit world can now use the entertainment industry, like speaking to us through people, right? They can now use spirits, the Illuminati or spirits, they're not human, can speak to us through movies. And because you got good movies out there, you don't have a bunch of bad movies. You've got um they're speaking to us through them. Now, God did the same thing. He set up symbolic messages all throughout the Bible for us to understand, and we can get a glimpse of it. And my preacher once told me that's called like an antitype. You've got like a mirror. You've got whatever happens in the Old Testament, it's like happened in the New Testament, and you got to mirror it together and try to figure it out. So the tabernacle was something that God created, and we see that in Exodus 35. We see it come into place in Exodus. I don't know if the 35 is the accurate number, but it does come into Exodus and Leviticus. So here's pictures of what the tabernacle actually looks like. So they have like a city wall, and they have like this tent inside of the city wall. And the tent is the tabernacle. There's a lot of symbolic representative, like that's the veil. You see the angels, the cherubim. A cherubim is an angel for those people who don't know much about the Bible. You've got these symbolic stuff, like everything in it has got a symbolic meaning. And I'm only going to describe a few of them to you. Now, this is just a side view of it, okay? You've got come on. Oh, that wasn't right. What happened to it? Here it goes. You've got this veil. Now, you just call this veil like a curtain. And you've got this incense. Now, the incense was something that was supposed to keep burning at all times. And two boys actually like they disrespected it and lit it in a bad way, and God like engulfed them in flames for it. So symbolic understanding of this is that the incense, when it stayed lit, because obviously this is a wall here, and the veil goes completely to the other side of the wall. So if you were walking in from here to here, you wouldn't see this opening right here. This would just be completely covered. And the only person who was allowed inside of this room, this is called the Holy of Holies. There was only one person allowed inside of this room, and that was the priest. And he was only allowed in there when he did the sacrifice of the bull, like of the lamb, like the blood sacrifice. So this veil is a curtain, and this is the Ark of the Covenant. This has got like a couple of things inside of it. It's got like the Ten Commandments, and on top of it, it's like two different pieces. We'll get to that. But the subliminal symbolic representation of this is this would stay lit, and it was like incense that would burn. And so the smoke would go up, over, and into the Holy of Holies. Now, the Spirit of God was symbolically and subliminally dwelling inside of this room. God dwelled inside of this room. It's called the Holy of Holies. And this curtain stayed like separated the two. So the incense would go up over into the Holy of Holies, and this was a representation of our prayers, the sweet smelling aroma. We've heard this before, sweet smelling aroma going up over the veil into the Holy of Holies. Our prayers would make it, of prayers of the saint, making it to its to the Father. Now Jesus is this veil. Now how do we know this? Well, when the tabernacle, when he died on the cross, the tabernacle, which later became brick mortar temple, it split into an earthquake. Actually shook the ground, and it split the temple in two parts, and it rent the veil in half. So this veil was actually split in two at this point. And so then our incense no longer had to go over the veil, but actually went through the veil into the Holy of Holies. So this implies a symbolic, subliminal messaging that we now have access to the Father through Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of people understand this and a lot of people don't, but it's all subliminal. So God dwelled in here. So here's another picture of the ark. This is what the ark looks like, the Ark of the Covenant. And I don't think I did the mercy seat one. I did not. Tabernacle. Let's show you what the mercy seat looks like. So it's two parts. Maybe I'll see it down here. Mercy seat. No, I did that down here somewhere. So we'll go to that in a minute. What did I search for? Oh, Jesus said that he was the temple. So the understanding is that God actually lives in us. Jesus was trying to get people to understand that too when he said that. He said, I am the temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days, the temple of God, which was the tabernacle. He didn't have to say the tabernacle because the tabernacle was long gone. It was just a tent. But it became a brick made mortar of a brick mortared building, like actual bricks. So then they called it a temple, which is the exact same thing. It's just in a brick form. And he said, I am the temple. So he didn't have to say, I am the tabernacle anymore. He didn't have to say that, where God dwells inside the Holy of Holies, inside that room that I showed you. And so he said, I'll rebuild it in 3 days. He was trying to show us that God lives in us, a kingdom of God that lives in us. So, that one's not supposed to be there. Okay, but Mary. All right. Now, how do we know that this is how we're supposed to look to Jesus? Okay, but Mary, this is when Jesus was, after he was in the tomb, but Mary was standing outside of the tomb weeping, and she wept. She stood and she looked into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Now, this is the Ark of the Covenant. I said I would pull this one up in a minute. You see, it's actually two parts. So this is kind of like a box. And then on top, it's got what was called the mercy seat. Now, when the priest would go into the room, he would sprinkle the blood of the bulls right there. I think I'm going to show it right here. I've got it. It says it right here. He shall take the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east. And before the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. Then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring his blood within the veil, within meaning inside that room, so within the veil, and do with his blood as he did with the blood of the bull, and sprinkle it on the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. So he would sprinkle the blood right on top of that piece, because that is the mercy seat. See it? He would sprinkle it right there. Now, you've got Jesus in the tomb. Saw two angels sitting in white, sitting one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. One at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. This is where they sprinkled the blood. Jesus was the lamb. Jesus, you see it? Can you see that? God's Spirit dwelled inside of this room, and that blood would be sprinkled right there in front of the two, in between the two angels, the two cherubims. And that is what you saw in the tomb many, 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 many years later. God's Spirit was inside of this room. Jesus was laid right there. This is how we know we are to look to Jesus. This is how the spirits work. Nowhere in the Bible is it laid out like this. Maybe there is. Maybe there's some. But that's how the spirit world works. And that is how we are to look to God, to Jesus, through Jesus. Jesus is the way. And we have to look to him and understand what he did. He did not hurt, harm, tempt, or test anybody the 3 years that he was in his ministry. Okay, like I said, it's my first one like this. So I could use some feedback on it. Look, at my ears are kind of red because I'm nervous. Like I said, I'm not even an author. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never written a book prior to the book that I just wrote. But I see some things and I want to get it out there. Please subscribe, like, follow, share. Share these footages. Share them, like them, subscribe. It's very important that you do that because the more you share, the more it gets out there. Purchase the books. Get them for free. Kindle Unlimited option. Help me get this out here, and it's more than just what I've exposed right here. Schizophrenic people are suffering. There's a lot of people out there in the world that are suffering, and they have no idea what's talking to them. They don't know what is talking to them, and I'm trying to expose to the world that this is what is talking to them. Where's it at? Where'd I say it? Where'd it go? A wrong God. Somebody really is speaking to these people. I know, because somebody was really speaking to me. Whereas I did not send them, yet they prophesied. It doesn't matter. Schizophrenia is a spiritual gift. And like anything, any good thing in the wrong hands, it can be very dangerous. And you need to test the spirits. 1 John 4:1. Let's go there for a minute. I want to read that because I say it all the time. I say this one all the time. 1 John 4. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits. Test the ones that are talking to you. Whether this word they should be all capital, they're not human. They are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world because they are listening to false gods. By this you know the Spirit of God. And every spirit who confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God, looking to Jesus. And every spirit who does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh and is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist. This is Satan, of whom you have heard that it comes, now is already in the world. Everybody's waiting for the Antichrist to come. He's already here. You are of God, little children, and you have overcome them, against spirits. Because greater is he who is in you, that's God, the Father, Jesus Christ, than he who is in the world, that's Satan. They are of the world, therefore they speak of the world, and the world hears them. They, them, spirits, not human. Spirits, not human. I've been taught that those are humans sometimes, like it just depends on the scriptures. Human. We are of God. He who knows God listens to us, and he who is not of God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Test them. Where do you get the answers for all of this? Right there in scripture. Thank you again. Illuminati exposed. Thank you.